It was a long time ago. But I remember it better now than I did on the Monday following. At least I see it a lot more clearly now than I did when I was a lad. Of course, back then, I thought I was a little more genteel and refined. Anyway, we decided we'd make a great day of it. A holiday for the whole family. And do everything we could to make Mother happy. Father decided to take a holiday from his office so as to help in celebrating the day. My sister Ann and I stayed home a bit longer from college classes. Well, Mary and my brother Will stayed home because, well, they were there all the time anyway and didn't have to go to high school until the next day. Yes, we were all there. And it was getting toward the time when we all wouldn't be there, so we wanted to do it up in a big way. It was our plan to make it a day just like Christmas or any big holiday. We decided to decorate the house with flowers and mottos over the mantelpieces and all that kind of thing. So Mary and Ann went out and picked some flowers, and Will and I decided to start on the mottos. Will is not very good at that sort of thing. Never was. Neither was I, if I have to be honest about it. We were sort of lucky that Mother was around to help us out. Actually, she does all that sort of thing at Christmas and Thanksgiving anyway, so we watched her make the mottos. She was always wonderful at that sort of thing. Besides, even if we tried our very best, I don't think we could have done one half as well. Really. We were all in the spirit of the thing, and had been since the day before. The girls had thought it would be a nice thing to dress in our very best for such a big occasion. Shopping seemed in order. So off we went to see what Mother might like. In a way, it hardly seemed fair, since Mother was in charge of the budget, and this was like asking her to betray a sacred trust. We pointed to several things we thought she might like, but she only shook her head and smiled. But the day wasn't a waste, really, since each of the girls picked up a new hat. They only needed to be trimmed by Mother to look absolutely smashing. We all wanted something to remember the day by, and Father solved that problem nicely by buying silk ties for Will, for me, and for himself. As we looked around, we realized that only Mother didn't have anything new. We pointed out several new hats, but she still shook her head and smiled. She told us that she really liked her old gray bonnet better than a new one. Well, Will and I could understand that, because she'd taken so long to break it in. I can't remember that she ever wore another. The girls commented that it was awfully becoming to her, and as I think back on it, it was. Awfully. Maybe she wouldn't take a new hat, but we weren't to be outdone. After breakfast Sunday morning, we had it arranged as a surprise for Mother that we would hire a motor car and take her for a beautiful drive away into the country. Mother was hardly ever able to have a treat like that, because there's so much that keeps her busy around the house. And, of course, the countryside was so lovely just then. We knew it would be just grand for her to have a lovely morning driving for miles and miles. But on the very morning of the day, we changed the plan a little bit. You see, it occurred to Father that a thing it would be better to do, even than to take Mother for a motor drive, would be to take her fishing. Father said that as the car was hired and paid for, we might just as well use it for a drive up into the hills where the streams are. As Father said, if you go out driving without any object, you have a sense of aimlessness. If you are going to fish, there is a definite purpose in front of you to heighten the enjoyment. We all felt it would be even nicer if Mother had a definite purpose. Anyway, it turned out that Father had just got a new rod the day before. It really made the idea of fishing more appropriate. So, we got everything arranged for the trip, and we got Mother to cut up some sandwiches and make a sort of lunch in case we got hungry. Though, of course, we were to come back home again to a big dinner in the middle of the day, just like at Christmas or New Year's Day. Mother packed it all up in a basket for us, ready to go in the motor. Well, when we got to the car, it turned out that there hardly seemed as much room in it as we had supposed. We hadn't reckoned on Father's fishing basket, and the rod, and the lunch. It was plain enough we couldn't all get in. Father said not to mind him. He said that he could just as well stay at home. He said that he was sure that he could put in the time working in the garden. He said that there was a lot of rough, dirty work that he could do, like digging a trench for the garbage. That would save hiring a man, and so he said that we were not to let the fact of his not having had a real holiday for 3 years stand in our way. He wanted us to go right ahead and be happy and have a big day and not to mind him. He said that he could plug away all day. In fact, he said he'd been a fool to think that there'd be any holiday for him. But, of course, we all felt it would never do to let Father stay home, especially as we knew he would make trouble if he did. The two girls, Anne and Mary, would gladly have stayed and prepared dinner, only it seemed like such a pity, too, on a lovely day like this, having their new hats. But they both said that Mother had only to say the word, and they'd gladly stay home and work. Will and I would have dropped out, but unfortunately, we wouldn't have been of any use in getting the dinner. So, in the end, it was decided that Mother would stay home and just have a lovely, restful day around the house and get the dinner. So we all drove away with 3 cheers for Mother. And Mother stood and watched us from the veranda for as long as she could see us. And Father waved his hand back to her every few minutes until he hit his hand on the back edge of the car, and then said that he didn't think that Mother could see us any longer. It turned out anyway that Mother didn't much care for fishing. Also, it was just a little bit cold and fresh out of doors, though it was lovely. And Father was rather afraid that Mother might take cold if she came. He said he would never forgive himself if he dragged Mother around the country and let her take a severe cold at a time when she might be having a beautiful rest. He said it was our duty to try to let Mother get all the rest and quiet that she could, after all that she'd done for us. He said that was principally why he had fallen in with this idea of a fishing trip, so as to give Mother a little quiet. He said that young people seldom realize how much quiet means to people who are getting old. As to himself, he could still stand the racket, but he was glad to shelter Mother from it. We had the liveliest day up in the hills that you could imagine. Father caught such big specimens that he felt sure that Mother couldn't have landed them anyway if she had been fishing for them. Will and I fished, too, though we didn't get so many as Father. The two girls met quite a lot of people that they knew as we drove along. And there were some young men friends of theirs that they met along the stream and talked to. And so we all had a splendid time. It was quite late when we got back, nearly 7 o'clock in the evening. But Mother had guessed that we would be late, so she had kept back the dinner so as to have it nicely ready and hot for us. Only first she had to get towels and soap for Father and clean things for him to put on because he always gets so messed up with fishing. That kept Mother busy for a little while. But at last, everything was ready, and we sat down to the grandest kind of dinner. Roast turkey and all sorts of things, like on Christmas Day. Mother had to get up and down a good bit during the meal, fetching things back and forward, but at the end, Father noticed it and said she simply mustn't do it, that he wanted her to spare herself. And he got up and fetched the walnuts over from the sideboard himself. The dinner lasted a long while and was great fun. When it was all over, all of us wanted to help clear things up and wash the dishes. Only Mother said that she would much rather do it. So we let her, because we wanted, just for once, to humor her. It was quite late when it was all over, and when we all kissed Mother before going to bed, she said it had been the most wonderful day of her life. And I think there were tears in her eyes. So we all felt awfully repaid for what we had done.
A Stephen Leacock Mother's Day special. We'll be right back.